There will come a day when the weight of the world presses so hard against your chest that it feels like breathing is a decision. Not a reflex, not a given, but a choice. Every step forward feels like dragging your soul through wet concrete. Everything you once leaned on gone. Everyone you once counted on silent. The support you thought would never crumble cracked beneath you like thin ice, pretending to hold the weight of a mountain. And you're left staring into the debris of a life that used to make sense, of dreams that used to feel possible, of plans that used to feel secure. You think this is the end, but what if it's not? What if this moment, the falling apart, the crumbling, the unraveling, what if it's not the end? What if it's the invitation? See, the universe never just subtracts. It clears space. It tears down what won't carry you to your destiny. But here's the part they never tell you. The demolition always comes before the design. You wanted growth, but growth is violent. You asked for strength, but strength is earned in agony. You prayed for purpose, but purpose is found in pain. So don't confuse the collapse with a curse. It might just be your calling, dressed in ruins. It's easy to believe in the vision when everything is aligned, when the plan is unfolding like clockwork, when the timing is perfect and the doors swing open. But the truth is, you don't know who you are until everything falls apart. That's where identity is forged. Not when you win, not when they cheer, not when the bank account is full or the opportunities are lined up. Know who you are is exposed in the silence, in the emptiness, in the moments when no one's coming to save you, when no one claps, when no one notices. That's when the real builders rise. Because some people wait for ideal conditions, and others build anyway. They don't wait for clarity. They don't wait for motivation. They don't wait to feel ready. They make a decision, a decided mind, and they build while bleeding. They hammer through heartbreak. They carry bricks while carrying grief. They dig foundations with trembling hands. They design the future in the ashes of what burned. That's what separates the temporary from the timeless. Because let's be real, anyone can build when it's easy. But the ones who shift legacies, they build when it's brutal, when the odds are insulting, when the losses are unbearable, when fear has a chokehold on their mind and doubt whispers, "Give up." But they don't. Not because they're fearless, but because they've decided if everything is falling apart around me, I will not fall apart within me. Read that again. The world may collapse, but I won't. The plans may fail, but I won't. The people may walk away, but I won't. Because I am not what breaks, I am what rebuilds. And that's a decision, not a feeling. A conviction, not convenience. Do you understand how rare that is? Do you realize what kind of soul it takes to get knocked down, humiliated, forgotten, betrayed, fired, abandoned, and still wake up and build again? That's not luck. That's not talent. That's not even discipline. That is identity. Unshakable, immovable, forged in fire. You can't fake it. You can't buy it. You earn it. With your scars, with your silence, with your sleepless nights and unseen sacrifices. You earn it every time you show up when it would be easier to hide. Every time you speak life when your mind is screaming death. Every time you take one more step, not because you see the way, but because you refuse to stop. That's power, and the world can't take that from you. Let them underestimate you. Let them think it's over. Let them gossip and laugh and disappear. While they talk, you build. While they doubt, you decide. While they wait for perfect timing, you lay bricks in the dark. Because this season may have stripped you, but it also stripped your excuses. And what's left is who you really are. No mask, no fluff, no performance. Just you, the builder, the warrior, the one who didn't quit. Because deep down you knew, if life was trying to break me, then this must be a test. And if it's a test, I'm not leaving until I pass. There's a kind of grit you can't read about. You can't journal it into existence. You won't find it in a podcast or a self-help book. You find it in the aftermath, in the ruins of a life you thought would never shatter. When the silence is so loud, it threatens to become your identity. When your tears feel like failure and your breath feels borrowed. That's where it's born. That's where you decide. I'm not just here to survive this, I'm here to rise from it. Because the people who shape history, the ones who rewrite what's possible, they didn't wait for applause. They didn't get voted most likely to succeed. They weren't always understood, but they were unbreakable. Not because life was kind, but because life was cruel. And they stood anyway. And that choice to keep standing, that's when your legacy begins. Do you think Lincoln wasn't broken? He lost elections, lost children, lost sleep under the weight of a divided nation, but he kept going. Do you think Edison didn't question himself? 10,000 failures and they laughed at him, but he kept building. Do you think Carnegie had clarity? He was a poor immigrant working 12-hour shifts as a bobbin boy, but he refused to accept his circumstances as permanent. Because the ones who build anyway understand this. Circumstances are temporary. Identity is eternal. You don't have to wait until the pain stops to begin again. In fact, some of the most powerful beginnings are born in the middle of breakdowns. When you're flat on your back, vision, blurry heart shattered into 1,000 unrecognizable pieces. That's when you pick up the first brick. With shaky hands, with trembling faith, with no roadmap, just refusal. Refusal to die here. Refusal to shrink here. Refusal to let what happened define what comes next. What? Ismail. And when you build like that, when you build from the rubble, not the blueprint, you create something no storm can steal. Because it's not built on ease. It's not built on trends or comfort or popularity. It's built on character. You become the kind of person who doesn't just set goals. You become the kind of person goals bow to. Because your consistency outlasts chaos. Your focus laughs in the face of distractions. Your commitment is louder than your circumstance. This isn't hype. This is how warriors are made. This is how visionaries are built. This is how leaders rise, not with the applause of others, but with the sound of their own footsteps echoing in the dark when no one's watching. So let the world fall apart. Let it shake. Let it burn. Let it reveal every false foundation you once leaned on. Because you're not just called to rebuild, you're called to rebuild better. Wiser, stronger, cleaner, more aligned. Not with what the world expects, but with what your future requires. And to do that, you've got to let go of what you were holding on to just to feel safe. You've got to let go of the image, the comfort, the version of you that was afraid to stand alone. Because sometimes, in order to be found, you've got to first be stripped of everything that hid you. You've got to walk through fire, not to be consumed, but to be revealed. This is your moment. This is the sacred, brutal, beautiful space where you are forged. Where comfort dies but calling is born. Where noise fades and clarity whispers. Where weakness breaks off and identity takes root. And you don't get here by accident. You get here by obedience. By waking up on the worst day of your life and saying, I'm not done. You get here by looking at the ashes and saying, I still see a future. You get here by choosing again and again and again to build anyway. If this message hit you deep, if you're done living stuck, if this stirred something you know you can't ignore, like the video not for us, but as a signal to yourself that this moment mattered, drop a comment. Let us know what you're breaking free from. Share it. Someone in your life is silently drowning, waiting for a word like this. And most of all, they won't understand your silence. They won't understand your distance. They'll question why you're no longer entertaining small talk, surface-level dreams, or shallow goals. They'll say you've changed. And they'll be right. Because when everything falls apart and you choose to rebuild, you do it without the old noise, without the old habits, without the old mask. You do it with a rawness that terrifies people who still live in pretense. You do it with a fire that exposes the lukewarm. You do it with a pace and precision that reveals how long you've been tolerating average. You are no longer playing to be liked. You are building to last. And that shift, that invisible decision you made in the quiet, that's the beginning of your freedom. You see, freedom isn't a vacation. It's not palm trees and bank balances. Freedom is when you finally realize that the only permission you needed was your own. It's when you stop waiting for signs and start being the signal. It's when you stop scrolling and start building. When you stop explaining and start executing. When you stop rehearsing your wounds and start revealing your strength. Because yes, life tried to break you, but you didn't break. You bent, you bled, you crawled, but you didn't break. You became unshakable. Not because the storm passed, but because you became the kind of person who builds in it. And that's what they don't teach you. That success isn't always glamorous. That sometimes purpose looks like silence. That vision often starts as pain. They show you the highlight reel, but not the nights you screamed into your pillow and still got up to do the work. They don't talk about the prayers you whispered with no strength left, the relationships you had to walk away from, the ego you had to bury, the comfort you had to trade for calling. But all of it, every loss, every tear, every misunderstood decision, it was worth it. Because now you're not chasing what's shiny, you're protecting what's sacred. Your identity, your integrity, your mission. And that mission, it was never about applause. It was never about being seen. It was about building something real, something that lasts, something that reflects who you had to become in the fire. You don't build that with convenience. You build it with commitment. You build it when you decide the past doesn't have the power to name you anymore. You build it when you realize the delay wasn't denial, it was development. And now you are ready. Not perfect, not polished, but ready. Because the ground has been cleared. The distractions have been stripped. The excuses have been exposed. And standing there in the wreckage is you. The version that no longer bends for approval. The version that doesn't need a crowd to feel confident. The version that will build anyway. There's something sacred about the rebuild. Something holy about laying each brick when no one claps. Something powerful about showing up to the construction site of your own soul alone and not flinching. No blueprint, no cheering section. Just belief, conviction, obedience to a vision that no one else can see but you. You see, when everything falls apart, you meet the most honest version of yourself. The one that doesn't get distracted by performance. The one that's not obsessed with likes, comments, or clicks. The one that stares at the mess and says, "We start here." Because the people who change the world, they don't wait for conditions to be ideal. They decide. They decide to build with shaking hands. They decide to speak when their voice still trembles. They decide to keep going when every door slams shut. That decision, that refusal to quit, is what separates dreamers from doers, wanderers from warriors, victims from visionaries. The world will tell you to pause, to take it easy, to wait for the right time. But here's the truth. The right time will never come gift-wrapped. It shows up disguised as rejection, as discomfort, as silence. And in that silence, you'll be tempted to go back to what was familiar, back to who you used to be, back to the small life that never asked much of you. But destiny doesn't live in back. Destiny demands forward, even when it hurts, even when it's unclear, even when everything in you screams for escape. You walk forward anyway, because your future is forged in motion. You don't build greatness on mountaintops. You build it in valleys, in shadows, in the long, slow process of becoming. You build it when no one is watching, when you're choosing discipline over dopamine, purpose over popularity, faith over fear. It's not sexy. It's not glamorous. It's 5 a.m., alarms, and showing up when you're tired. It's cutting off distractions that used to numb you. It's holding yourself to a standard no one else understands. And that's the price. Not for success, but for alignment. Because when your soul is in alignment, you don't need hype. You don't need external motivation. You are driven by mission. And mission doesn't get tired. Mission doesn't take polls. Mission doesn't seek permission. It burns. So don't look back at what collapsed. Don't beg for old foundations to hold up a new you. What fell apart wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Preparation for a version of you that no longer fears the fall. Because now you know you can rise. Now you've proven to yourself that survival wasn't your ceiling. It was your floor. And now that you've hit it, now that you've stood on it, it's time to build again. But this time, you build like you know who you are. Not what they called you, not what you lost, not who walked away. You build from identity. You build with boldness. You build without needing to be validated at every step. Because this next chapter, it doesn't need their applause, it needs your decision. If this message hit you deep, if you're done living stuck, if this stirred something you know you can't ignore, like the video, not for us, but as a signal to yourself that this moment mattered, drop a comment. Let us know what you're breaking free from. Share it. Someone in your life is silently drowning, waiting for a word like this. And most of all, they won't understand your silence. They won't understand your discipline. They won't understand how a season of breaking could birth such fire in your eyes. But you do. You understand now that the breaking wasn't the end. It was the birthplace of hunger, of grit, of standards you never dared to hold before the storm came. You don't just want success anymore. You want alignment. You want the kind of peace that can't be purchased, the kind that's earned when you look in the mirror and respect the person staring back. Because now you've walked through fire. And you didn't melt. You didn't bow. You built. You let the silence strengthen your focus. You let the pain sharpen your priorities. You let the betrayal deepen your boundaries. That's what happens when everything falls apart and you choose to build anyway. You become unstoppable. You stop needing the world to agree. You stop explaining your process to people still worshiping comfort. You stop watering yourself down to fit into rooms that were never built for your calling. You understand that destiny is loud in the spirit, but quiet in the world. It whispers, it tugs, it calls you in moments of stillness, not spotlight. And when you answer, not everyone will clap. Not everyone will come. Not everyone will stay. That's okay. The people who are meant for this next level of your life will meet you in movement, not memory. So don't beg anyone to believe in you. Believe in yourself so boldly that they have no choice but to watch. Let your consistency convince them. Let your results silence the room. Let your new habits become louder than your old excuses. There's a certain elegance to quiet progress, to building behind the scenes with no applause, to mastering your emotions before you're handed a platform. This is sacred work, and sacred work cannot be rushed. You are not late. You are becoming. Every setback, every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, it wasn't wasted. It was carving something out of you that success alone never could. Character, patience, fire. So when people ask how you got here, you won't say luck. You'll say, I showed up when it was hard. I built when no one believed. I became the kind of person who could carry what I asked for. Because if you can't handle the silence, you're not ready for the stage. If you can't show up without applause, you're not ready for responsibility. If you can't build from rubble, You're not ready for the crown. This season is not to break you, it's to forge you. So stop asking for ease and start asking for endurance. Stop praying for comfort and start praying for clarity. Because when you are clear, truly clear, you become terrifying to anything trying to stop you. You stop looking for signs and start being the sign. You stop waiting on permission and start walking in obedience. Because you're done living a life that looks good but feels empty. You're done sacrificing your soul for acceptance. You're done shrinking to fit in. Now you build, unapologetically, relentlessly, deliberately. And brick by brick, decision by decision, you begin to create a life that's unshakable, not because it's easy, but because you chose to rise when it wasn't. You want to know what real confidence looks like. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not the one constantly trying to prove something to the world. No real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to announce its power. It just moves. It wakes up at 5 a.m. when no one's watching. It studies when no one is clapping. It sacrifices on days when comfort feels more tempting than the dream. It surrenders what's easy in exchange for what's eternal. Real confidence is built in isolation, not in celebration. It's built when the lights are off, when the world forgets your name, when the money runs out, when the timeline you planned disintegrates, and all that's left is you and a decision. Do I fold here, or do I build anyway? That's where most people quit. Not because they didn't have the gift, not because they lacked talent, but because they had no tolerance for pressure. They wanted results without responsibility. They wanted harvest without sowing. They wanted the platform without the pruning. But pressure is the passport. Pressure is the qualification. You want to carry something heavy, God will test your grip first. You want to lead people, He'll let you sit in silence until your ego dissolves and your heart learns how to serve. You want to be trusted with success. He'll watch what you do when failure shows up first. Because anyone can be faithful in abundance, but only the chosen are faithful in drought. And if you're there now in the drought, in the confusion, in the storm, I need you to hear this. It's not punishment. It's preparation. Preparation for the version of you that can't be seduced by shortcuts. Preparation for the leader who doesn't lead from emotion, but from principle. Preparation for the vessel that doesn't leak under pressure because it's been sealed in the fire. You're not being overlooked. You're being fortified. Because what's coming is heavy. And if you carried it before the breaking, it would have broken you. So this season, this quiet, painful, sacred season, is mercy in disguise. It's teaching you to plant when it's not popular, to stay steady when it's not sexy, to commit when it's not convenient. It's making your name trustworthy in heaven before it's recognized on earth. Because if the foundation isn't deep, the blessing becomes a burden. And God won't let you be crushed by what He designed to carry others. So He waits. He waits to bless you until you become the kind of person who can carry it without compromise. Not someone who chases results, but someone who embodies resilience. Not someone who plays for applause, but someone who shows up when the world turns its back. Not someone who reacts, but someone who responds with faith, with vision, with obedience. Because that's what builders do. They don't just build businesses. They don't just build platforms. They build identities. They build character. They build legacies that last beyond them. And that kind of building doesn't start on stages. It starts in storms. It's not rooted in ease. It's rooted in endurance. It's not fueled by hype. It's fueled by conviction. So if you're tired, good. If you're stretched, good. If you're uncomfortable, good. It means you're growing. It means you're exactly where you need to be. Because nothing powerful ever gets built in a comfort zone. Let me know when you're ready for part 7. There is a version of you that can walk through fire and not come out bitter, not come out broken, but come out bolder, wiser, sharper, more dangerous to mediocrity than you've ever been. But that version of you doesn't show up when things are easy. It gets forged when everything falls apart and you refuse to. It's born the moment you stop begging for relief and start declaring resolve. When you stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "Try me." That's the moment you shift. That's the moment you stop waiting for the world to make sense and decide to make purpose out of the pain. That's the moment God says, "Now they're ready." See, purpose doesn't get handed to you like a trophy. It gets revealed in the trenches, in the lonely chapters, in the waiting rooms, in the delayed answers, and the detours you never planned. You don't get to download destiny without being willing to walk through discomfort. You don't get to carry the blessing unless you're willing to bleed for the building. Because your future isn't handed out at random, it's unlocked by endurance. Your destiny is not decided by your dreams. It's proven by your daily decisions. You don't become who you are called to be through excitement. You become it through execution. Even when you don't feel it, even when it doesn't look like it's working, even when no one claps and no one understands. You build anyway, you show up anyway, you stay faithful anyway. Because the real builders aren't emotional, they're committed. They don't flinch at failure. They don't fold when the metrics drop. They don't question their worth every time a plan doesn't pan out. They don't let emotions sit in the driver's seat of their future, because they know the vision is bigger than the valley. They've seen too much. They've sacrificed too much. They've come too far to go back now. They don't care if it's hard. They care if it's holy. They don't ask if it's popular. They ask, "Was I obedient today?" And that's the turning point. That's the threshold between the old you and the real you. You can't live a life of strength while making decisions rooted in weakness. You can't walk into your future dragging the weight of your old patterns. You've got to let it go, not because it's easy, but because you've outgrown it. And if you don't walk away now, you're not just delaying your future, you're denying it. There comes a moment when you must stop rehearsing who you used to be and start becoming who your calling requires. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one understands, even when the results don't show up yet. Because your commitment has to arrive before the confirmation does. Faith moves first. Conviction moves first. The strongest warriors in history didn't wait for signs. They became the signal. They didn't wait for applause. They built in silence. They didn't need a plan B. They burned the boats. And when everything fell apart, they didn't collapse. They didn't curse the chaos. They got to work. They built anyway. And so will you. And if this spoke to something deep in you, share it with someone who's still doubting their worth. Comment the words, "I was built for this." Subscribe if you're ready to walk into every day like it's already yours. Because this isn't just another video. This is the start of the version of you that the world has been waiting for. You see, anyone can build when the sun is shining. Anyone can believe when the path is clear. Anyone can praise when the outcome is obvious. But builders, real builders, they build through the storm. They build in the dark. They build when the ground is shaking and all they have left is faith. Because they don't need ideal conditions, they need a decision. And once they've made it, there's no turning back. They know the foundation isn't built on what feels good, it's built on what's true. And what's true is this: you're not here by accident. You're not under attack without purpose. And you're not losing everything you're learning what was never meant to stay. Everything that's collapsing around you is exposing what's unshakable within you. The storm isn't your enemy, it's your environment. It's not sent to break you, It's sent to rebuild you from the bones of your former self. And every ounce of pain is preparing the power you'll walk in tomorrow. So stop trying to go back. Stop fantasizing about who you were before the fire. That version of you was never going to carry the weight of the vision anyway. This uncomfortable, stripped-down, raw version of you, this is where the real building begins. This is where self-pity dies and self-mastery is born. This is where excuses expire and excellence awakens. This is where the outer world stops dictating your direction and your inner fire starts leading it. You build not because it's the popular thing to do, but because it's the right thing to do. You stay standing not because it's easy, but because it's essential to who you're becoming. And when your mind screams to quit, when your emotions try to bargain for comfort, when the world offers you shortcuts and soft landings, you look them in the eye and say, "I didn't come this far to fold. I didn't suffer this long to stop short. I will build anyway." And when they doubt you, when they laugh at the vision only you can see, when they walk away because your calling is too inconvenient for their comfort, let them go, because some people were never meant to walk with you through the rebuild. Some mindsets were never meant to survive your next chapter. And some parts of you, they had to fall apart so something stronger could rise. So don't resist the falling. Don't resent the silence. Don't retreat from the process. Let it burn. Let it break. Let it strip you down until the only thing left is truth. That truth will become your foundation. And from that place, you will build again, not as who you were, but as who you are. Stronger, clearer, untouchable by circumstances, unshakable by opinion, a force of obedience, a weapon of purpose, a builder in the middle of the rubble. So now, what will you do? Will you wait for perfect conditions that will never come? Will you pray for escape when what you need is endurance? Will you beg for comfort while destiny keeps calling you into construction mode? Or will you rise not despite the breaking, but because of it? The storm wasn't your punishment. It was your permission to build without applause, to believe without evidence, to become without shortcuts. You don't need the world to validate what God already confirmed. You don't need a sign when your soul already knows. So take the bricks they threw at you. Take the pieces of the life that shattered in your hands and build something so unshakable, so undeniable that even your past will bow in reverence to your becoming. This is not your ending. This is not your failure. This is your blueprint. So build anyway. No one is coming to do it for you. No one will hand you the life you dream about. And no one can carry the vision like you were born to. So stop waiting for clarity. Move with courage. Build with boldness. Walk like it's already yours. And if you ever forget how to rewatch this video, then get back to the work, because your future is still under construction, but you are the builder. Let the world see what happens when everything falls apart, and you build anyway. Now go. Start today. No more waiting. No more wishing. Just building. Anyway, always.